In 2011, a professor of architecture stood up in a lecture hall in London and accused a furniture store of something strange. He said its floor plan worked like a psychological weapon. The store was Ikea. And he was not joking. You already know the feeling he was describing. You walk in for one bookshelf. There is a list in your pocket, and the list is short. 2 hours later, you surface at the checkout with a cart holding tea lights, a casserole dish, a plant, a bag of frozen meatballs, and somewhere underneath it all, maybe, the bookshelf. Everyone jokes that the store is a maze. Almost nobody knows the strange part. That trick has an official name in psychology, and the name belongs to a real man, an architect, who hated everything the trick became. This is the story of how his name ended up on it anyway. Start with the maze itself, because it really is one. The professor, Penn, studied the layout of a London store the way scientists study ant colonies. What he found was a single winding path, bending back on itself again and again, with the exits and shortcuts tucked out of sight. Within minutes, most shoppers no longer know which way the entrance was, or the exit, or the daylight. There is only the path, and the path only moves forward. Disorientation sounds like bad design. Here it is the product. A lost shopper walks the entire store, past every sofa and every lamp, and a lost shopper does something else too. When you find something you like inside a maze, you are afraid to put it down because you doubt you could ever find your way back to it. So you carry it, and what you are still carrying at the end of the path, you tend to buy. By Penn's estimate, roughly 60% of what people buy in that store was never on their list at all. Even the famous meatballs are part of the machine. By the company's own research, nearly a third of visitors come just to eat, and a customer who has been fed, rested, and made comfortable is a customer who keeps walking. Psychologists have a name for the moment this maze is built to produce. The moment you step into a vast, dazzling, deliberately confusing retail space, feel your sense of direction dissolve, forget what you came for, and open up to buying whatever you find. It is called the Gruen transfer, and the man it is named after is where this story stops being about furniture. Victor Gruen was born in Vienna in 1903, and he loved his city the way you love a person. Specifically, he loved its arcades and plazas, the covered walks and public squares where people lingered, argued, drank coffee, and lived a shared life on foot. Then, in 1938, the Nazis annexed Austria. Gruen was Jewish. He fled, and he arrived in New York carrying a portfolio of drawings and $8. He started small, designing shopfronts in Manhattan, and he turned out to be brilliant at it. But his real ambition was enormous. He looked at post-war America, a country dissolving into highways and suburbs where nobody walked anywhere, and decided to give it the thing he missed most. He would build the European town square, and he would plant it in the middle of the parking lots. In 1956, in a suburb of Minneapolis, his great experiment opened. Southdale Center, the first fully enclosed, climate-controlled shopping mall on Earth. Inside was a garden court under skylights, a fish pond, sculptures, a cafe, even a giant cage of tropical birds. And this was only meant to be the seed. His full plan wrapped the building in apartments, schools, medical clinics, offices, and a lake. Not a store, a town. The developers built the store and the parking, the apartments, the schools, the clinics, the lake. All of it was quietly cut. What opened was the shell of his idea, a beautiful interior with everything civic stripped out, tuned for a single activity. And the shell conquered the world. His own office designed more than 50 malls across America, and thousands more copied them. One magazine later suggested he may have been the most influential architect of the 20th century. The techniques he had invented to make people linger, the calm, the enclosure, the gentle confusion of a place with no weather and no clocks, were sharpened by others into instruments with one purpose. Not to hold a community together, to hold a wallet open. Gruen watched all of it happen. In 1978, in a speech in London, he finally cut the cord in public. He said, I refused to pay alimony for those bastard developments. He moved home to Vienna, back to the real plazas, and he died there 2 years later. Then came the quiet, final twist. When researchers needed a name for the disorientation effect, the forgetting of your own intentions inside a dazzling commercial maze, they reached for the most fitting name available. His. The Gruen transfer. The sharpest manipulation in retail now wears the name of a man who spent his last years denouncing it. There is one more turn in the story, though, and it points upward. Today, the classic enclosed mall is dying almost everywhere, and look closely at what is replacing it. Open-air districts with homes above the shops, clinics, cafes, and walkable squares where people linger without buying much of anything. It looks, almost line for line, like the drawings the developers threw away in 1956. So the next time you are deep in the maze, somewhere between the sofas and the tea lights, holding a casserole dish you never intended to own, remember that this exact moment has a name. And remember that the man behind the name was not trying to trap you. He was trying, the whole time, to build you a town square.